Deep in the shadows of the Appalachian wilderness lies a secret. From the haunted hills of West Virginia to the depths of the unknown, a legend lives on. A creature whose presence sends chills through the night. A being with glowing red eyes, massive wings, and an aura of terror that defies explanation. Its name was whispered in hushed tones. Mothman. They say it's an omen of doom, appearing before tragedy strikes. Is it a guardian? A curse? Or something far more sinister? From abandoned factories of Point Pleasant to modern-day sightings across the globe, the Mothman's legacy is as haunting as the creature itself. Join me as we unravel eyewitness accounts, investigate the myths, and uncover the dark truth behind the legend. This is Project Black Garden, a Monsters and Myths podcast. This is Season 1, The Oleander Files. File number 299, The Mysterious and Deadly Mothman. As always, I'll be your guide. My name is Michael. Let's begin. The Mothman is a legendary creature rooted in American folklore, specifically associated with sightings in and around Point Pleasant, West Virginia, during the late 1960s. The story of the Mothman has evolved into a fascinating blend of cryptid mythology, conspiracy theories, and a cultural fascination. The origins of the Mothman began in 1966 with its first sighting when two young couples reported encountering a large, winged creature with glowing red eyes near an abandoned TNT factory in Point Pleasant. The witnesses described the Mothman as being 6 to 7 feet tall, with a wingspan of 10 feet, gray and dark in color, and with large glowing red eyes. Its winged flight was reported to be smooth and unnerving. This infamous creature got its name from local newspapers, which dubbed the creature Mothman, more than likely influenced by the popularity of Batman at the time. Just over a year after the first sighting, on December 15th, 1967, the Silver Bridge connecting Point Pleasant to Ohio collapsed during rush hour, killing 46 people. That triggered some locals to begin associating the Mothman sightings with disasters, interpreting the creature as an omen of tragedy. That's led to different theories and explanations for this creature. Most believe it's a supernatural entity, the harbinger of doom, appearing to warn of impending disasters. Some believe it's an alien or interdimensional being. UFO sightings have also been reported in the area around the same time, leading some to link the Mothman to extraterrestrial phenomenon. Cryptid or unknown species has always been on the table as well. Cryptozoologists suggest the Mothman could be an undiscovered animal, such as a sandhill crane. Skeptics have proposed that misidentified sandhill cranes, large birds with reddish markings around their eyes, could explain the sightings. And others, they argue that the sightings were a mix of hoaxes, hysteria, and misidentification. I'm here to tell you that they're wrong. Now, there's been known sightings of Mothman all over the globe. For instance, the Mothman was seen just before the Chernobyl disaster in April of 1986. They say that it's what led to the horrible meltdown that day. and is referred to as the Blackbird of Chernobyl. In Chicago, Illinois, in 2011, numerous witnesses have described a large, winged humanoid with glowing red eyes flying near O'Hare International Airport. This led the Chicago area to connect all the modern-day disasters and urban legends to the creature. In Germany, during World War II, miners reportedly encountered a terrifying winged creature blocking the entrance to the mine. The creature emitted an ear-piercing screech and scared the miners away. Soon after, the mine collapsed, and the workers credited the creature to saving their lives. Now, this story predates the American Mothman legend, suggesting a broader, global mythology. During the original Point Pleasant sightings in the 1960s, numerous residents also reported strange lights in the sky. This led some to believe that the Mothman is extraterrestrial or interdimensional, possibly appearing alongside UFO activity as a warning or a creepy observer. These Mothman stories seem to persist. They mix cryptid folklore, tragedy, and the supernatural, creating an enduring cultural fascination. But according to my uncle's journals, the Mothman is very real, and much, much more than what the stories tell you. As always, a quick reminder that all the names have been changed except for my great uncle's name. Now, this file is much different than the other ones that are located in the Oleander journal. And that's because the story I'm about to tell you was handwritten by my great uncle. I think it might have been from his own personal journal, because lying before me are 5 handwritten pages that were tightly tucked inside this journal in no particular order. And once you hear the story, you'll probably understand why. Now, my great uncle's squad team, the 7734, had returned from another bloody and not so routine mission. And he apparently was fed up, tired, at his wits' end, needed a break. And when discussing this with his team, his best friend Bowie offered up his personal cabin located off-grid in the woods of West Virginia. My great uncle Sam, though at the time, was happy to take him up on that offer, but now he regretted it. And what follows is what happened on that terrible weekend. My great uncle Sam had made his way to a small, humble, yet modern cabin located just south of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, along this dark mountain range. Now, my great uncle, he had seen war zones, survived ambushes, and faced the worst humanity had to offer. Nothing prepared him for what he saw that night. And these are my uncle's words. I was tired. I needed to escape the noise. No more orders, no more gunfire, no more weird shit. I just wanted silence. A week in a remote cabin that my best friend offered to me sounded perfect. And at first it was. I'd spent the day hiking, breathing in the cool pine-scented air. And now, as dusk has settled around me, I sat on the porch with just my thoughts and a beer, losing myself to the view of the beautiful, endless stretch of forest before me. But then the silence changed. The usual chorus of crickets, distant owls, all the normal critters, they stopped. It was quickly replaced by an unnatural stillness that seemed to creep and settle over the land. The kind of silence that prickled at the back of your neck. Now, doing what I'd done for so many years now, my instincts kicked in. And as my pulse quickened, It was obvious I wasn't alone. With beer in hand, I stood up and scanned the woods. Something moved. A flicker of darkness between the trees. It was large. Too large. I squinted to get a better look, wishing I had had some of my unofficial military tech with me at that moment. As I focused in, the shape was tall. Unnaturally tall. That's when the eyes appeared. Two burning red orbs, staring, unblinking, watching me. Without even knowing it, I had stopped breathing. I had faced insurgents. I had faced monsters. I have faced the worst possible scenarios. But this was different. I felt fear before, and I've been scared in each and every scenario I've seen. But this felt like a primal fear. It was lodged inside the middle of my chest, and I couldn't calm it. Just then, the figure shifted, unfolding massive wings, shadow-like appendages stretched from its back. It shifted through the night, blocking out what little dim light there was left in the sky. And then it shrieked, a sound I've never heard before, pierced the back of my brain as if it had burrowed through my skull like a hot knife through butter. I dropped my beer and it shattered on the ground below me. Thankfully, that woke me up enough, and I stumbled back over to the cabin, slamming the door behind me. I ran to the kitchen, ripped open a drawer below the sink, and pulled out a small but deadly firearm. As I prepared the gun, without hesitation, everything fell heavy, almost like the air was being sucked out of the cabin. I expected the door to fly open, and a monstrous shadow with glowing red eyes, ready to tear me to pieces. But nothing happened. So I waited, on edge, and just when I was about to give up on that, it happened. A thump. A thump so loud, the entire cabin shuddered. It was obvious something had landed on the roof. I moved quickly, checking the windows. Nothing. So I ran to the other side, checking the other windows. And that's when the shadow passed, a huge hulking mass, shifting just beyond the glass. I raised and shot once, but it was too fast. I forced myself to stay calm. Think. What's the first rule of a firefight? Find their weaknesses. Find an escape. But I started to wrestle with the question that always hits me whenever we have to deal with a new monster. How the hell do you even fight something that isn't supposed to exist? Another large thump. It was closer this time. The rafters creaked, dust rained from the ceiling. I put 2 bullets in the ceiling this time. It was more reaction than it was common sense. Then, a slow, deliberate scraping against the wood, like claws. In that moment, I knew this fucking thing was toying with me. The shadow passed over the porch, then slammed into the door so hard the frame splintered. This time, I emptied the full clip in front of me, hitting nothing again. And in the back of my head, I could hear somebody, a whisper, but it sounded like a distorted radio signal. 2 words entered my mind. See you. The hair on my arm stood up, and that's when its eyes appeared in the window. I pointed the gun at it and screamed, "I'm not scared of you. I can do this all night." And there we stood in a standoff for what felt like 10 minutes. I'm sure it was only a few seconds, in some kind of paranormal staring contest. Its red eyes burned into me, and all I could hear was its voice in the back of my head. See you. See you. And then I started to get exhausted, but I didn't want to break eye contact with the beast. But my eyelids, they were too heavy. I quickly lost the battle, and my eyelids pulled close, but only for a second. As I willed them back open, the shadow was gone, but the silence was still there. Finding my second wind, I filled with anger. I lead one of the most deadly military squads on this planet. I'll be damned if I was gonna let some fucking shadow with wings intimidate me. Quickly, I grabbed my keys and flashlight and bolted out the back door. I sprinted for my truck. I had barely made it there in 5 steps before the wind changed. Something seemed to be looming above me. The air shifted, pressed down with some unseen force. I looked up, already knowing it was back, and there it was. Its wings spread wide, eyes bleeding with the intensity of molten fire, just watching me. But it was like the eyes could see through me, like it knew me, knew my past, knew my inner thoughts. And without thinking, I locked my teeth together, squinting directly at it, and said, "I see you, motherfucker." Just then, a fading light everywhere flickered. The truck seemed miles away from me now, and my body locked up. I wanted to scream, and for some reason, I wanted to run, but I couldn't move. And that's when it fell from the sky, descending down toward me like a blanket of black tar. And the last thing I remember seeing in that moment was the Mothman's eyes. I woke up the next morning on the ground. My truck door was open. I was still clutching the keys. The sun was up. Birds were chirping. All the usual sounds of a lovely morning in the mountains. I sat up and looked. There was no signs of struggle, no footprints, no shattered glass, but my fear was still there. Suddenly, the truck radio turned on without any prompt, and it was in the middle of a news cycle. Some special report had just come through. In Washington that morning, a military helicopter carrying 5 young soldiers had crashed unexpectedly. There seemed to be no foul play, and local authorities were on the scene trying to determine what happened. There were no survivors. After last night's events, it was the last news I wanted to hear. So I got up, reached over to turn the radio off, and just before I clicked the power off, the reporter had mentioned the helicopter's flight number, and it was CU-800N. See you soon. I ran inside, gathered my things, and left those woods behind me. Now, I never spoke about that night, not to my unit, not to my family, not to my future ex-wife. I've decided to live with what happened that night, and I know the Mothman was real and evil. That was all my great uncle wrote. But he did end these pages with a sketch of what attacked him that weekend. It's a picture of the Mothman from the view he had on the ground when it descended upon him. It must have been burned into his memory. I get the goosebumps just looking at the image. Beware the Mothman. All right. I wanted to take this moment to address a listener email and get you guys caught up on the latest updates in my world. First off, if anybody would like to share any of their encounters of any sorts, beasts, aliens, ghosts, the unexplained, I want to hear them. You won't be judged. Not here. Not ever. And that's why I'd like to thank Sheila from West Virginia. Her city has been redacted, as she shared this story with me a few weeks ago before I even recorded this podcast. Her email reads, "Michael, I'm loving your show. I wish there were more outlets like this to share our true experiences. As you well know, it's not easy to do. Family, friends, the people you think would have your backs sometimes don't. But anyways, I hope you cover the myth of the Mothman, because my husband has seen him, She says about 20 years ago, her husband was driving home and was run off the road by the Mothman. She said her husband said it came out of nowhere. Its shadow covered his vehicle. Its wingspan seemed to be 20 feet. And before he had any idea of what he was witnessing, it swooped down, lunged at him, and quickly slammed into the side of the car, staying there just long enough for him to see the bright red eyes. Apparently, this made him lose control of the car, and he spun off into a ditch on the side of the road. And just as quickly as the Mothman appeared, it had vanished. He got out of the car with just a couple bumps and bruises, but couldn't find anything anywhere. No birds, no animals, nobody around him to witness what had happened. Just a couple banged up fenders until he walked to the back of the car, where there were 3 long scratch marks that had tore through the steel. They were about 1.5 feet long. I'm enclosing a picture that my husband took when he returned the car home that day. Feel free to share it to your listeners. And she's right. The damage on this vehicle looks very suspect and actually matches some of the stories in my uncle's files. Now, she says no one believed her and they thought that they were trying to make some kind of hoax. But at this time, her husband was not making a lot of money, and the last thing he would do is destroy his vehicle. They didn't even share what had happened for over a year for fear of ridicule. And when they did, that's exactly what happened. And she continues, after realizing nobody was going to listen to us or believe us of what happened, we decided to give up on it. We had the car fixed, and we never talked about this to anyone other than ourselves ever again. I just wanted to say thank you, because when I was able to show this podcast to my husband, we hugged each other, and he said, finally, somebody may be ready to listen. Well, you're right, Sheila. I'm listening, and thank you again for reaching out. Please keep listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope it backs up some of your experience. As always, everybody, you can reach out to me on any social, on Twitter and Blue Sky at Gardner Michael, or my direct email for now, pbgharvest@gmail.com, or feel free to comment wherever you stream this podcast. Let's discover the truth together. As for what's been going on in my life lately, I wish it was better news. Not too much to discuss right now, but I'm trying to keep you guys in the loop as things happen. So keep following me on Twitter for instant updates. The gray van is a constant in my life now. And more often than not, it's parked in front of my house. And as soon as I leave the front door to confront it, it drives away. It's happening so often now that it almost feels natural, like it's the local mailman delivering today's batch of mail. And I'm not sure if this is tied to that, but things in my house have been randomly coming up missing. Like stuff that's not important. Or sometimes it's something important, sometimes it's not. Like it could be my car keys. It could be a knife or a fork or a picture of my family. One time, one of the chairs from my dinner table was missing. Now, some of the things come back or had just been put in different places. Like, for instance, the chair. It was in my bedroom. I don't know what to make of this stuff, but someone's messing with me. Is it the people in the van? I don't know. They've been quiet. Other than monitoring me, I haven't had any direct contact or any more warnings from them. But someone is gaining access to my house. I'm changing the locks tomorrow, and we'll see if things change. But I'm not getting my hopes up. A friend told me to report it to the police, some of these shenanigans, and I did this afternoon before I recorded this podcast. I didn't talk to anybody directly, but they said they would be getting a hold of me as soon as they could. So we'll see where that goes. And with that, I think you're all caught up on my end. Thank you all again for listening. I'll be back next week with probably my favorite story in my uncle's journals, because it's always been my favorite monster. So circle your calendars, listeners, for the next full moon, because we will be tackling the werewolf. I'm Michael, and remember, monsters are very, very real, and sometimes they kill.